Welcome back to Grow Joyfully. It is Thursday, August 3rd, and I am setting out in my pasture garden, which at this time of year has kind of taken over the weeds and just gone crazy. So my husband and I are working on this particular patch of tomatoes that really were kind of an afterthought. I had so many tomato plants this year. I'm guilty of that every year. And I just couldn't throw them away. Well, I had 1.5 rows that were empty here with nothing else planted. So I just stuck them in the ground because it was either that or they were going to die and I'd have to throw them in the compost. So fast forward a month and they have not had the time, care, and attention that they need. If we pan over here, this is what tomatoes need in order to grow under control, upright, vigorous, staying off the ground so that they don't get blight or other diseases. So that's what they need to look like. We haven't had the time to go and get even more cattle panels so that we can tie up this mess. Now this is what tomatoes look like when you just let them go. They have a vining habit, and if I can find one in here, I will show you where one of the vines has put off little roots. Sorry about the camera work. I think these are 2 tomatoes grown together, actually. They're green, they're lush, they look great, but there's about 50 million branches on each one. That's an exaggeration, of course. And they're just not being as productive as they could be. If you look right here, do you see those little knobbies? Those will actually turn into roots and help these tomato plants dig in, grow roots, and continue to vine along the ground. So of course now I can't find any of those little root jobbies, so I will get up and take you over here to where there is one. This is the pile that I'm trimming. This is just 2 tomatoes that I've rescued and tied up. So if you look right here, I can hold it with one hand. Here's the little knobbies, and I don't know if you can see them. There's little roots starting to grow. We'll look at it from the side. So I am quite fascinated by kind of this accident of not having enough time to get to them to see what the result has been. There you go. That's what they do. They were upright to begin with, then they begin to lay down on the ground, and then they produce these little knobbies and then the little roots. And these things will continue to grow along the surface of the dirt for heaven knows how far and how long, till the first frost. I think it's amazing. I may just leave one plant to see the yield that I get off of it and the size of the tomatoes. But meanwhile, pan around here slowly. This is what these 2 look like that I've gotten control of, and I'm growing them back up a stake. We're going to get, hopefully this weekend, some more cattle panels and get them tied up properly. But there is a caution. You have to handle the vines carefully because you could easily snap them. My intention is to get this piece of the vine up off the ground because of the fruit here. This is a Dr. Wycheese tomato, a big yellow slicer indeterminate variety. And I don't want them on the ground because I will soon lose them to insects when they start getting ripe at all. But I'm going to have to move carefully because I could easily break off this whole vine, and I've cut everything else off from the tomatoes, so that would be a disaster. So I just thought it was interesting because that's what they look like when you don't trim and train them. And take a look at this whole wild patch. If I didn't trim and train them, we would still get tomatoes. And I don't know, look at this craziness. There's tons and tons of blooms, and that's a good sign. And because they were kind of low growing, it doesn't look like they were getting as much heat stress as the rest of them that have been trained up the vine. But the plants could die easily from laying on the ground and being wet and getting blight, and the fruit could be eaten very quickly when they start to ripen by bugs. So I thought I would show you this very interesting fact. Most of this will probably get pruned off. I try to look at the plant and see if there are any fruits starting. Like I see one right in here, a couple of them. So I will trace back. Okay, this one goes to this plant over here. So there are 2 plants growing here. Wow. This is going to take 2 hands. I'd better sign off and pay attention to what I'm doing. It's going to be a bit of work. But the reason I wanted to get them started today is because they start growing gnarly and all rounded, so that it's hard to get them trained back up a straight stake or cattle panel. So I hope you found this interesting. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. It is always worth sticking a plant in the ground to see what happens, even if you can't get back to it, as long as it has water. Water is one thing that it will not compromise on. If you don't get out here to fertilize them, I fertilized these when I first planted them, but I have not been out here to fertilize them in a month. So as you can see, they're doing really well. We had fertilized the ground, and I fertilized them when I planted them. And the rest of this, they've done on their own. So don't give up. Don't be hard on yourself. Take a look at my weeds. There's actually potatoes there. There are cucumbers, cantaloupes, zucchini that you can't even see. I don't know if you can see that zucchini plant poking its head up. I know that I have planted way too much for me to handle. My husband's trying to help me, but the rest of this I do on my own. So if I have weeds growing, I don't want to have to apologize for it or feel guilty about it. So I will do what I can. I will continue to grow food. I will continue to pick food through the weeds, because that is my mantra and what I'm going to have put on my headstone. You can still pick food through the weeds. I hope you have a lovely day. Be good to yourself. Get out there and work, and just sit down and tell yourself, this is August 3rd. In 2.5 months, this garden will be gone. It'll be all dead, all brown, all gone. So sit and enjoy it now. And then you can think about what you should do, what you should change, what you should grow, what you shouldn't grow during the long winter, which will be a fun and cozy thing to do when the weather outside is lousy and you're inside tucked up with a cup of tea and a garden magazine. So I'm really looking forward to that part. I'm trying to change my mental outlook on winter time because it is definitely a struggle for me. So again, I hope you have a lovely day, that you enjoy something beautiful, and don't forget to grow joyfully. We'll see you next time.